A reminder that the NFL season may be wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed just by placing a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet, including live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explorer tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find popular parlays, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Bull had asked this last week, and I wanted to wait until we got all the matchups and seeding set to actually do this exercise. But now that we know the Browns are the 5 seed, we know their matchups, we know how all the seedings in the AFC and NFC are, I think it's an appropriate time to ask this question. If you were to simulate from right now to the end of the Super Bowl 1,000 times, 1,000 simulations, what is the most likely outcome for the Cleveland Browns this season?
Jace?
If we're being realistic, it's probably beat Houston and lose in the second round. Yep. But it doesn't mean that they can't. I absolutely, I think this team can go to the Super Bowl. But if you're just going to look at the numbers and you're going to play the odds, you're going to look at realistically what are the outcomes here. Going to Baltimore is a tough ask for any team, and especially, with the position that the Browns are in with some of the injuries that they've had. So I think if you're looking as an objective outsider, you look at Houston and say, yeah, Browns are probably going to win that. They'll definitely be underdogs. If it goes chalk and it goes the way we think it will, they'd definitely be underdogs in the second round. And more times than not, they'd probably lose that game. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, though.
Yeah.
And it all, like he said, it all depends on that second round game. Like, if you simulated it knowing what a computer would do, you simulated a second round game where the Browns played the Ravens maybe 100 times, they may win it, what?
40?
Mine
35?
was lower than that. Mine was about 30. Just because of what the simulation would say about the Ravens and their defense and Lamar Jackson, especially because he's going to win the MVP. And the way they've been running the ball, they would pretty much give him that game. Now, here's the thing. If the Browns don't end up having to play the Ravens in the second round, I think it gets much higher, statistical category where you think, all right, well, they got a chance to win, especially if they get now, I don't know how it works. Like you said, you need all 3 teams to have an upset.
For a home game.
What do you need all 3 teams to do to avoid the Ravens in the second round?
You just need one of the 2 teams behind you to win.
So either Pittsburgh beats Buffalo or Miami beats KC.
So if
one
Pittsburgh beats Buffalo, Miami loses to Kansas City, and the Browns win, then the Browns would play at Kansas City. And then Pittsburgh would play at Baltimore. If Pittsburgh loses, which is more likely, and Miami beats Buffalo,
Miami goes to Baltimore.
Then Miami would go to Baltimore, and the
the
Browns would go to Buffalo.
You need the
like
divisional
that
winners to lose.
I like that one. I like
That's
that Dolphins thing right there. Yeah, give me that.
Give me that on the menu.
Give me that one.
What's weird? I think this year probably more than, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I think this year more than any other year, if you played the season out 1,000 times, I think you'd have more Super Bowl winners this year than most.
Like for the Browns?
No, I'm talking about if you just play it out. Play out the tournament with the 14 teams that make the postseason. If you were to play it out 1,000 times, I think in a normal season you might have 5 that could win the Super Bowl. I'm just throwing a number out there.
More than one time out of 100, maybe.
Yeah. But this time around, I think you can make there's a case that a lot more teams could win the Super Bowl this year than most because you don't have that dominant Kansas City season. I mean, I know Baltimore did, and I know San Francisco did, but they've looked human. Baltimore lost 3 games at home this year.
Now, every team looks human in a couple of games.
Yeah.
Baltimore has consistently been dominant the whole season.
They have, but they've had moments where I'm like,
I know, but every team has
moments. They don't scare me.
Even the best. No, they don't scare you.
There's not that team that I would look at even 2-3 years ago when the Browns, or in 2020 when the Browns had Kansas City. Even though they played them close and had a really good chance to win that game late, going into it, I gave them no chance to win that game.
And had Mahomes not gotten hurt, who knows if it would even
that
be
changed
close.
the game for sure.
I think we look at Baltimore differently because it's a divisional game. If Baltimore was
because they haven't done anything in the playoffs with Lamar.
Fair.
One playoff win, right?
Yeah.
If Baltimore wasn't a team that the Browns have faced twice a year, if they didn't already beat them this year, I think if you put Baltimore's season on Kansas City, I think you're looking at Kansas City completely differently.
I would agree with that.
Right,
Yeah, you're right. You're
So
right.
I just think it's that familiarity of being a divisional, and there's nothing wrong with that. You should look at it that way. It's a divisional game.
Yeah.
Anything can happen in a divisional game.
Yeah.
Does anybody have Madden? It'd be cool to see if you can actually simulate this.
They do the Super Bowl.
I don't know. How many teams do you think? How many teams do you think would get at least 5 Super Bowl wins in 1,000, or in 1,000 simulations? Let's say at least 50 wins. I don't know.
That's a high number.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's a
all right.
lot.
All right, let's say 10 out of
See,
it.
that's why I went so big. 1,000 simulations, you could have 12 of these teams win.
I think
at least one.
I think
Yeah,
I
I
think
do too.
I don't see 12 teams having a realistic shot at winning.
I don't think the Steelers win.
that's the one. 6 teams in the AFC to me can win the
You
Super
really
Bowl.
think the Miami could win?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, Miami's the same team that threw up 70 on Denver.
Because
Yeah,
they-
but that's Denver. I mean,
I
that's
know,
one
but Denver,
But that was 3 months
Miami's
ago. I mean,
Miami's problem is they're on the road. That was huge for them.
yeah, that was
yeah.
big. And they needed to be at home, I think, more than anyone.
I think in the AFC, to me, I think Houston. I think the Browns are going to beat Houston. But if Houston beat the Browns, I think I think actually Houston has a better chance of getting to the Super Bowl than Miami does.
No, I disagree.
I think Miami is overrated.
Miami's issue now is the injuries.
If
They,
Jalen,
and we
if they
saw
get
it.
Waddle back, they'll be all
Waddle
right.
being out, and you know what?
But who have they
Tyreek
beaten?
Hill isn't 100%. And
Who
he
has
tweaked
Miami
that-
beaten?
He tweaked that ankle again yesterday.
Yeah,
Hill
he did.
So no, Miami's schedule. When you look at it, they feasted on bad teams. Every time they played a really good team,
They
got
lost.
it handed to them.
Yeah.
When you got speed like that,
But
they,
the speed scares the hell out of me.
They got a puncher's chance against anybody. A-Chain or Hill can break a long one, and if they get up on you,
Between the injuries, the fact they haven't done anything against good teams, and the fact that they have to win all these games on the road, I don't look at Miami as a legit contender for me.
I just need them to win one. If they win that one game and you put the Browns in a situation,
Well, the forecast for Kansas City is brutal. We're a long ways out. Or a
It's
week
like
out
-3 to -16.
It's
Yeah.
like worse than Buffalo.
Miami
and snow.
Miami went 1-5 against playoff teams.
Yeah, they're not gonna. I remember last year them playing against the Bills. It just.
No, they didn't. They had like
Their uniforms
their
and cold weather
quarterback
just don't work.
last year.
Yeah, when they're wearing all whites, they look like they're just not gonna
Nah,
win.
their
But
uniforms were not made for
I
cold
look
weather.
at it as I think there's 5 teams that could win a Super Bowl in the AFC. I would give the Texans a shot because if the Texans could beat the Browns, they could beat anybody. I think.
The wild card to me is the Fighting Taylor Swifts. I don't know if they're garbage, and I keep giving them shots, but I have not seen them look good in no game.
No, but you can't count them out
But you
because of
can't
their
count them
playoff
because
success.
it's Patrick
In the
Mahomes.
NFC, though, at this point, I'd be very surprised if it's anybody but San Francisco.
I mean, if you look at the Browns' chances, and I guess that was the ultimate question, like if you
Yeah.
played it out 1,000 times, how many do the Browns win? See the Browns winning 30 or 40, which would make that, give them about a 3 or 4% chance to win the Super Bowl now that they're in the tournament. And for me, I think that's a fair number. Could it be more? Could it be less? Of course it could.
I actually think it'd be higher than that.
It could be higher than that. The thing is, for me, if I gave you a certain number of facts, you would say that number is higher. And here's the number of facts that I'll give you. They've beaten the 1 seed in the West. They've beaten the 1 seed in the NFC. They've beaten the 1 seed in the AFC at their place. And they've got a top-ranked defense. And they won as many games as anybody in the NFL except 2 teams. Did 2 teams get to 12? And the Ravens got 13.
No, the
Ravens
Niners
got
lost
13.
yesterday. I don't
Niners
know.
got 12.
Okay, so 2 teams
Oh.
got to 12, and the Browns beat both of them, and they beat one of them at home.
Cowboys,
Dallas also.
Dallas
got
did
12.
and
too.
the Lions.
Okay.
Lions
The Lions
got
got to
12.
13?
12.
12.
Lions
12,
got
I'm
to
sorry.
12 as well.
Okay, so 4 teams got to 12. The Browns were right below that at 11, and they beat the 2 teams that they played with 12.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you just look at those stats,
And they've got a quarterback.
hell yeah, they can win.
And they got a quarterback who has a history of playing well in big games.
Is he
On the road.
On the road.
Is he elite?
The question.
Ask me that in a month.
Hold on, no.
Ask me that in a month.
Because
I'll tell you this much. He's been elite for this month.
So what I'm asking is because usually what we do, we be like, listen, if you got an elite quarterback and it's like January, you got a
chance.
shot.
No, he was elite in December, and I won't have anybody tell me
I'd
that he
say
wasn't.
by 2023 standards, he was elite. I mean, he threw. I don't know with all the turnovers, but I love Josh Allen, and he has a lot of turnovers too. So
I will cautiously say this, and I don't want to.
We got him. Kool-Aid up there. We got him.
No,
I know where he's going.
No, you don't, because I don't know. I feel better right now with the Browns entering the playoffs with Joe Flacco quarterback than Deshaun Watson. Deshaun has one career playoff.
Listen, you know what? That's not a shot.
One. He's got one.
I don't think that's even going out on a limb.
Because think about it. If it was,
but that's insane to say.
It's crazy.
If you go back to September, October, July, whatever. To say you feel better with Flacco running this team.
This has been an insane season.
It really has.
I mean, that's the only way to describe it. Insane.
Yeah.
If Deshaun Watson was playing, think about it. He'd be going back to Houston, and it would be C.J. Stroud versus Deshaun Watson.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that thing, I don't know. I don't got to. It's just because that's the storyline. And can you imagine?
Like pressure on Deshaun in that case would be absurd.
It features the two front runners for Coach of the Year. I thought Stefanski had it rubber stamped, but I've seen a number of pundits since Houston won
because
say
they won the
that
division.
They won the division.
And you know how much they love to give it to a first-year coach. They love that.
And let's face it, the Texans were supposed to be worse than the Browns this year.
They were.
Their over-under in Vegas was 4.5 wins this year.
Who's the odds-on right now to win Coach of the Year?
It's still Stefanski, but let me phrase this properly.
I don't feel as comfortable as I did last week.
I don't think the Vegas odds are a good representative of how close the race actually is right now.
Okay.
I feel like Vegas has, I don't want to say misrepresented because they obviously set odds to make people gamble on it.
Sure.
But I feel like the race for that and a couple other awards are not where it should be.
You think it's
based
sucker
on
lines
the
to bring people in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the odds, though, just for curiosity here?
I'll tell you the updated odds to this minute. But before this weekend, Stefanski was like a 10,000 to 1 favorite or a 1,000 to 1 favorite, and no one was even close. But as of this minute right now on FanDuel, the Coach of the Year odds are as popular picks. Stefanski's a 7 to 1 favorite, and D'Amico Ryans is plus 250.
So there you go.
So he's still a big favorite to win it.
I think the Browns, I would say they would have, if you were running the simulation for the season, their most likely scenario is, yes, losing to the Ravens in the second round. But I do think, in my mind, they would probably be either 4th or 5th in the league in terms of most Super Bowls won in the simulation.
What would the number be? Do you have a number out of 1,000?
I think it might be like 50.
That's where I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, because I look at it. I
Which
think
is 5%.
I think the Niners would win most often because they have less competition. I think in the AFC there's I'd say 4, maybe 5 teams that are so close.
They're going to beat each other up.
Right. Whereas I mean,
the path in the NFC looks so easy for San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, nobody trusts Dallas.
No.
I mean, Detroit lost Laporta. I don't know what his status is.
I'd heard.
I don't know why they
ACL.
played their guys.
I know. What was that about?
They could have technically got the 2 seed.
Yeah, but they needed both the Eagles and the Cowboys to lose. The odds of that happening were not slim.
And what are the difference? What's the difference between the 2 and the 3?
Well,
you'd have the home
for the
game
Lions, Jared Goff significantly better in a dome at home.
I get it.
For them, I think it did make sense.
We talked about it last week. If the Browns had a chance for the 1 seed, you have to go for it.
Yeah.
To
But they
me,
didn't
there's
have
a
a chance
difference.
for the 1 seed.
No, but you had a chance to improve your seeding. You had to take a shot.
To me,
I'd fight like that for a bye, not
to
for
me,
just-
there's a difference between the 1 seed and, again, if that were the case, the Browns would have only needed to win and have the Ravens lose. The Lions, for the 2 seed, needed Dallas and Philly to lose, and they were both playing terrible teams. Now, Philly ended up losing, but Dallas obviously smoked Washington. So I would say I would say the Niners are most likely to get to win the Super Bowl. You'd probably have the Ravens second, and then probably the Chiefs, and then probably the Bills, and then probably the Browns.
Even more than Dallas.
For
The
me,
Bills.
yes,
Yeah.
I would.
Just because you don't trust Dallas in the playoffs.
Yeah.